All right, to wrap it up, we have Clemson, a 12.5-point favorite on the road at Duke. Not a neutral siter. This one's on Monday. Do keep in mind, 8 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. It does have an over-under 55.5 as well. Past 3 games we've talked about have that. Clemson has been taking most of the money this offseason. They opened at minus 11.5, climbed as high as minus 13.5 in some spots. The over-unders remain steady-ish, somewhere around that 55.5 to 57 range. We've talked about it in our ACC preview. Duke was a pretty lucky team last year. Their plus 16 turnover margin was the second best nationally, only to USC's ridiculous and unsustainable plus 22. And they come in at number 5 in turnover luck, according to ESPN's Bill Conley. This is our first look at Cade Klubnik with Garrett Riley as offensive coordinator, which I'm very excited for because I think the last 2 offensive coordinators that they've had in Clemson just weren't it. This is a team that's been winning 10, 11 games without a real answer at quarterback, and I think a directionless offense. Garrett Riley comes in, hopefully cleans that up. I'm very excited. I'm so excited that I actually have a Heisman future on Klubnik and a college football playoff and national title future on Clemson. So I'm a little bit in, got a little bit of skin on the Tigers this year. Duke does return 4 or 5 starters on the offensive line, including a Stanford transfer. Jay Cornybrook was a starter there, so he counts towards the way that we do things here. But they do play Clemson's defensive line, which is ranked number 1 in the ACC. No doubt there. They're going to be a very, very disruptive unit as per usual. I do worry about Duke's defensive personnel. They return 18 starters, but they were 105th in pass EPA against a much, much easier schedule than they have on tap this year. I expect Clemson to come out and try to test that, maybe build Cade Klubnik's confidence early, see what Garrett Riley's got in the bag, even with Will Shipley in the back pocket there, who's probably their best offensive player all around and their most reliable guy. Currently, I lean Clemson with the points as long as it stays under minus 14. I know we missed the best of the line. I'm not too concerned about 11.5 as opposed to 12.5 or even 13. Those are some kind of insignificant numbers there. I'd probably still lay the points with Clemson on the road here. But what do your numbers say about this game?
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what Clemson looks like with Cade Klubnik at the helm from the get-go. I think he probably should have been given the reins earlier last year, and things might have turned out differently. Of course, we'll never know. I have the Tigers favored in all 12 regular season games with a conference best 63% chance to reach the ACC championship game. In this game, and I talk about that because this is a conference game right out of the gate, which I really like, I have Clemson minus 13.5, which is an 83% win expectancy. Tigers are power rated number 7 nationally, while Duke is number 50. This is a strength-on-strength game for me, but I'm still projecting a mismatch on both sides of the ball, with the difference between the opposing units being about the same on both sides. I have Clemson's offense number 18. I think they should be able to put up some points, especially with Klubnik in there, against Duke's number 55 defense. And then in the matchup of the strengths of these teams, at least by my numbers, Clemson's number 8 defense, which is the projected best in the ACC, should, I think, be able to slow down Duke's number 44 projected offense. The 2 advantages that Duke does have in this game: the game is in Durham, and it's in week 1. I've talked before about the more time teams have to prepare for a game, the more it favors the underdog. So they've had all summer to prepare. Clemson has too. But, is Clemson... I wouldn't be surprised at all, Brett, and I have no inside knowledge of this. You look at Clemson's schedule at Duke in week 1. I'm not suggesting they're overlooking Duke. Charleston Southern in week 2, Florida Atlantic in week 3, both those at home, Florida State at home in week 4. You tell me with a straight face you don't think Clemson was taking at least one day a week in the summer to practice for Florida State, like to game plan Florida State and scheming up the Florida State game. I really think they took at least one day every single week in the summer for that game in particular, knowing the 3 games they have in front of them. Now, if they come out and lose to Duke in week 1, it clearly didn't pay off. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Clemson's just too good. Bottom line, I have Clemson minus 13.5 on the road, 83% win expectancy for the Tigers.
Yeah, I don't know. I talk about the ratings maybe not being totally on board with a certain team. I don't know that we're necessarily as high on Clemson as they could possibly be this year. They're number 9 for my aggregated power ratings there, behind USC, behind Penn State. I don't know. Behind Texas. I don't know, man. Clemson in those kind of situations, I think I have to lean the tried and true Tigers with the talented roster, with the incredible defense. I mean, Their defense, I think, is better. Well, for sure, is better than USC and Texas. Penn State's up there, though. It's just one of those where I don't know that we have a full grasp on them after quote-unquote down years the past few years. But what do you think about that?
I mean, I was going to say, not me until you got to Texas, because I have Clemson number 7. Like I said, I have them ahead of USC. I have them ahead of Penn State. Now, granted, it's not by a lot. You're talking by a half a point here at most. They are a full football point per game below Texas for me at this stage. So if you want to say, hey, they can even be above Texas, I wouldn't get mad about that. I think, LSU's kind of in that ballpark too, to be honest. Only 2 points ahead of Clemson right now in my numbers. Then there's, kind of a half step up to Michigan, and then another step up to, Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia. So I don't think you can make a case for Clemson to really be certainly not top 4, probably not top 5. But if you want to say they're number 6, I wouldn't argue that. I have them number 7. So yes, I agree. The national narrative on Clemson the last couple of years, as they finished the year by my numbers, power rated number 9 in 2021 and number 10 in 2022, the worst that they've been by my numbers since 2014. I mean, they had a real stretch there of about 8 years of really top end, top 5, number 1. There's a good team, a good program. I think they're going to be all right. I think they're going to be best defense. I think Klubnik's got a high ceiling and a decently high floor as well. I know the last 5-star they had in there, DJU, didn't work out that way despite some early flashes. But yes, I agree. I have them above USC and Penn State. I think that's the right place to have them, but I'm not going to quibble too much because, again, the points are not all that different.
No, to be clear, there's a 1.8 point difference between Notre Dame and LSU. In my numbers. So a 2-point swing then puts them at 6 or 5, behind Michigan there. So
interesting. I've got 3 points between those and 5 spots. 3 points, 5 spots. But interesting. Yeah, we're close.